The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships can be probably one of the hardest that the woman would have to face in her life. So how do we transition from being a mother to being a mother-in-law, and from being just a daughter to being a daughter-in-law? Today we're joined by Deb DeArmond, an author of a new book, Related by Chance, Family by Choice. And she will help us to dig into this problem and see how we can make this relationship work. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Polina.
Well, I was going to read all your credentials, that you're an author and a speaker and a counselor and a teacher, but I think the biggest credential that you have is that you have 3 daughters-in-law. And on the back of the book, there is a picture of these 4 lovely ladies. And they're smiling. That doesn't happen very often. What's your secret?
Well, Gina, that's the question that started this entire process. I was attending a retreat with 2 of my daughters-in-law, and a woman leaned across the table and asked me, "What's your secret?" And I looked up startled. I didn't know her, and Polina, I don't think I would have told her my secrets if I did. But she was rooming with 2 of my daughters-in-law, and she said, "They love you, and I want to know how you did that." The secret is, it's really not a secret. The secret is that you have to make a determined choice in your life, that you're clear about what your role is as a mother of sons. You're never intended to be the most important woman in his life, because that spot God reserves for the woman he marries.
Wow. Well, you know, when you look at the situation, usually there are 2 women who love one man, and then you wonder why can't they just love him and be friends? Why is there so many difficulties? I'm sorry, I know that you said something about the mother. Is that just the mother's fault?
No, it's not. And our research, Polina, actually shows that there's enough blame to go around, that the daughters-in-law are often just as much to blame for the difficulty in the relationship. I think that there's a couple of things. Mothers and sons are close like fathers and daughters are close. And for an awful lot of mothers, the idea that there might be ever someone good enough to replace her is alarming to her, and it's tough for her to let go. But she's not being replaced, because let's face it, the mother-in-law in the group has seniority, but the daughter-in-law comes with some benefits that mother-in-law can't touch. The daughter-in-law, I think, has often fallen prey to sort of the culture of our media that villainizes mother-in-law. Think Jane Fonda in Monster-in-Law, or Marie Barone in Everybody Loves Raymond. And so when they're sort of looking one another up and down, they see one another as competition, when truthfully, they're just not. But they feel as though they're losing something. Mothers feel as though they're losing something when their son marries.
Are all of your daughters-in-law, are all of them Christian?
Yes, they are.
What if they're not? What if there is a religious disagreement in the family? What's the best way to handle that?
Well, I think that it's when you accept the Word of God as the authority on the lifestyle of the believer, you follow the Word, and it says that you love the unlovely, you love those who may despitefully use you. Take a look at Ruth and Naomi. They were of different faiths, different cultures, different lands, different worlds, and yet they found a way to support one another, to collaborate and not compete. And ultimately, Naomi's, obviously her faith and her culture won Ruth's heart. And I think that a lot of times we miss the opportunity to really be shining examples for Jesus when we don't engage in that kind of a relationship with a mother-in-law or daughter-in-law who doesn't share faith with us.
But when the opportunity arises, do you share faith? Is that something you need to do, or it's not your department?
You know, I have to be honest. I don't know that we have to consciously say, well, today I'm going to share faith with my mother-in-law or my daughter-in-law. I think it's the way we live, Polina. So often people have said, there's something really different about you. Maybe a client of mine or a coworker I don't know well. What's different about your life? How have you created the relationships that you have across the board in your family? And the secret is, if you just live the Word, people will ask you about your faith.
All right. Well, a lot of the times I think we start off kind of rough, and then I guess with age and time, wisdom comes. So what would be your advice to someone who did not necessarily have the best years in the beginning, and maybe some things happened, maybe the husband said some things about his wife to his mother that she keeps in the back of her mind, or how can you fix what's already been done, and who should make the first step?
I think you're right. I think sometimes the man in the middle feels kind of squeezed, and he may make remarks to his mother about his wife, or his wife about his mother, that are critical or that hurt, and they tend to stick around for a while. Those wounds last. Who should go first? I think that it could be either. I've really counseled women to sort of set it aside. Somebody's got to blink. Somebody's got to go first. Reach out and say, hey, we've not always had a relationship that's been positive, and it's made me sad, or I've missed a closer relationship with you. Would you be open to talking about it and maybe start fresh?
And if that doesn't work, is it ever okay to just walk away? I mean, do mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, do they have to be friends?
No, I don't think they have to be friends, but they are family. They're related through the man in the middle. I think there's a lot of push to make every possible effort to have a congenial family relationship. Grandchildren, extended family, everybody's involved, everybody's impacted. But there are times when I think that I've heard on both sides, either the mother-in-law or the daughter-in-law's behavior is so abusive that boundaries are important. And when that happens, you pray, you continue to pray, but you also have to protect your heart and your family.
Oh, that's so true. Well, let's remind our audience that we're talking to Deb DeArmond. She's the author of a wonderful book, a good tool for you that actually has a lot of practical things in it. Related by Chance, Family by Choice. And Deb, I know that you've done quite a bit of research for this book, and your daughters-in-law helped you with that. What did you find being some of the most common disagreements between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law?
Well, one of the things that we found is that there's really not much difference in the level of the quality of the relationship between women of faith and women who don't share faith. And I think one of the encouraging pieces we discovered is that 70% said that they would be willing to make the effort and take personal responsibility to help improve the relationship if they just knew how. Polina, that's really what this book is about. The girls and I didn't want to have a book that just said, here's what you should do. We have a real strong belief that knowing what you should do is great, but knowing how to do it, that's better. And so those tools and those action sheets, those are all designed to help put some legs to a commitment that says, I want to live with this woman as family.
What is the best way to become friends with your mother-in-law if you're long distance?
I think that it's like any long distance relationship. Communication is really important. Drop her an email a couple of times a week just to let her know that you're thinking about her. Send her a snail mail card. There's so much fun in going to the mailbox and finding a card that just says, thinking about you today. We talked to a couple of mother-in-law, daughter-in-laws who are long distance. They actually have a designated time once a week where they talk on the phone, they share prayer requests, and they pray together. And still one other, they're reading a book together, and they do this routinely. And then they have kind of their own private book club. They'll send one another emails about their impressions. They'll work through the discussion guide in a book. So there's lots of creative ways to do that.
Do you have any daughters?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. Well, because my next question was going to be how difficult it is. And maybe in your research you saw, you get daughters-in-law and then you have your own daughters. That dynamic is probably another book that you can write. But any advice on that?
I think the challenge always for women is that we like to have that first place relationship. I'm really clear. My girls, my daughters-in-law, they have moms. I'm not trying to take her place, but I'd love to be their backup mom. We are friends. We share some interests. We do some things together. But anytime that there's a competitive tone to the relationship, there's a problem. And so, again, take a look at Ruth and Naomi. They didn't compete. They completed one another and worked together.
As a mother-in-law, what hurts you the most?
That's a tough question, to be honest, Polina. I don't know that I've ever been deeply wounded by any of the daughters of my heart, which is how I phrase these girls. To be honest, my sons are likely to be less conscious or aware of my feelings or say something hurtful. I haven't really found anything, to be really frank. It hasn't happened.
And when they have conflict, do you tend to take anybody's side, or you stay out of it?
I'm Switzerland. I'm not taking anybody's side. And if the girls or the boys were to complain to either me or to my husband about their spouse, we always redirect them. Have you prayed about it? Have you talked with your spouse about it? If you haven't done those things, please don't talk to us about it. Once you know the details, it's hard not to know what you know. So we really just sort of requested, we'll be glad to sit and talk with the two of you, but we're not going to counsel either of you without the other one present.
All right, well, we only have a couple minutes left, and I'm going to use that time for myself. I recently got married, and I have a mother-in-law that I haven't spent that much time with. I've been married for 2 months, and I haven't had a chance to develop a relationship yet. So for a newlywed, what is your advice?
Find out the things that she's interested in. Discover what she enjoys. And hopefully she'll do the same thing. Share with her the things you love. I have a daughter-in-law who loves to bake, and I'm not much good at it. And so for family gatherings and holidays, I invite Sarah to come. We split up the chores. I help her. I'm her sous chef, but she really does the baking. It's something we enjoy together. I have a daughter who loves to run. She competes in marathons. Didn't know anything about marathons, but I got interested. I encouraged her. I've learned a little bit about the world of running. And my third daughter-in-law and I, we share career. We both do development for leaders, training and development and coaching. And when she was new, just out of graduate school, I was able to help get her some contacts. So if you express interest in the things, Polina, that she's interested in, it says you're important. I'm interested in you, and I want relationship with you.
You know, your girls are blessed. I can see the love in your eyes for them, and I know they love you sincerely, and so I'm sure they're thankful. But one thing I wanted to say, probably from just my experience, is that being thankful, no matter how good or bad your mother-in-law is or your daughter-in-law is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important for a daughter-in-law to remember that the woman raised the man of her dreams. And if for no other reason, she deserves some acknowledgement and always respect according to the word. And it's important for mothers-in-law to remember, as I said to my daughter-in-law Heather at her baby shower recently when she was expecting a son, don't ever forget, God never intended for you to be the most important woman in his life. I said, just as the Lord selected you for my son, someday he'll select a woman for your son.
Wow.
And that's a sobering reminder for daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law both.
Well, thank you, Deb, for your reminders to us today. Again, the book is titled Related by Choice, Family. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed it up. Related by Chance, Family by Choice. Make sure you check it out. Deb, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Polina.